This is Zettelcast, brought to you by readers, writers, thinkers, and teachers from LiLLiPub, along with our partners in thought, our Zettelkastens. In this show, we share discoveries that our Zettelkastens have shown us.
There you go.
And compare notes on how we're using this marvelous invention in our creative work. Thank you for joining us.
All right, book. Let's do it again.
All right.
Episode 56. The plus ones get the final say.
Well, welcome to Zettelcast number 56. I'm Mel Jeffcoat. I'll be your host today. And we're going to kind of go back old school here today and do some of our very first activities that we did to start off. And so our first activity today is going to be, where would you file that? Where we each bring a card and a card complete with tagline, hopefully. And we give each other a chance to look through our indexes, and figure out where we would each file that card. And then we'll discuss it. So who would like to get us started?
I can go. Yay. So the card that I created was born of the fact that this particular phrase that I had never heard 2 months ago has shown up in two different contexts for me recently. The first context in which I heard it, and the phrase is attractor basins. So let me just read the card for you. Actually, I'll show the card and I'll kind of read it out loud for people who would appreciate that. So the tagline is patterns emerging from attractor basins, not a tractor. Attractor as in attraction. And this is a quote from a book. In chaos theory, there is the notion of an attractor. An attractor represents a state into which a system finally settles. If we start with different initial conditions for the system, under certain circumstances, we find the same pattern emerging. The circumstances for which this holds true is called the basin of attraction for the attractor. Now, that sounds very technical and sciencey, and it is because it's from chaos theory, but this is something that is describing a phenomenon we encounter all the time. And you can think of this as close enough for comfort, close enough for government work. Close enough. And the first circumstance in which this came about was with a teacher of harmony who was discussing the phenomenon wherein we as hearers of musical harmony are able to take a rough approximation of a purely harmonious combination of notes and call it good enough and treat it as though that's what we've just heard, so that it then facilitates the movement from one harmony to another that is also close enough. And all of these movements cause us to kind of take a harmonic journey in a way. We've participated in our mental space in order to fill in the gaps. And the way my teacher, whose name is Alodine Matthew, and he is the author of the book Harmonic Experience, which I've talked about before, the way he described it, he said, there's no perfect circle that we've ever found. But we recognize circles all the time, even though they're not perfect. And so the attractor basin is that thing that kind of sucks our recognition into an idealized circle that we've never seen. Isn't that awesome? So knowing and this book that I quoted from, which I thought was a very, very nice description of it, is a Buddhist book.
Huh.
So there you go. A very good Buddhist book called Right Concentration by Lee Brasington. So I submitted this a picture of this card without the address and everything to my castmates here in case they needed some time and had some time to file it. Kathleen, I know you saw it. Did you have a chance to figure out where you want to file it?
No, I decided that that was kind of the point, is to
Okay.
do it. And so I refrained from.
You refrained. Okay. Well, I'll share what I did. And as we go hunting around in our Zettelkastens, bear in mind, dear viewers, we have an editor who will probably create the magic of time slicing. All right, so I have talked about this card before. This is one of the first cards I ever made, and it's indexed under a lot of things. I'll say that what I wanted to do, I felt like backing up, this exercise caused me to fill in gaps in my Zettelkasten. And I am likening that to, in the timeless way of building, it's the process of repair, which is step one. When you're building something, make sure you've got everything squared away first. So the thing that I thought that this would go to, it just came to mind, is a quote from Anthony Metivier. He says this all the time, which is context may, sorry, I always mess it up. Content may be king, but context is God.
Oh.
And he uses a lowercase g for that. So I thought, well, that wasn't even in my Zettelkasten. But I've thought for sure that this thing about attractor basins would go underneath it. But what I found is that those two want to be siblings of this card that I have talked about before. And it's my little rough collection of what I call footprints of the ancestors. And that is just like compelling pointers to wisdom from all sorts of places. And so I thought that rather than I thought both of those are a sibling, the Anthony Metivier quote and the attractor basins. And so here's this card. I won't read all of it because it's got a lot. This should be like several cards. I was learning. But these footprints, I'm calling them human-created analogs that point to what is. And they form a collage in the collective consciousness, acting as commas, and I'll redefine what that word is, commas, from the absolute to the relative. So commas is a term that is used in harmony that talks about, well, this note in this scale could be interpreted as this set of vibrations or this other set of vibrations, and those are commas, and they have existed since the time of the Greeks. It's like, well, if you build a series of notes this way, you're going to get with this frequency of vibrations, and if you build it this other way, you're going to get a different one. And each of those sets up a different context. And these pairings of notes are called commas, and they have names. So that's what I felt like an attractor basin is. It's yet another comma.
Awesome.
Could you share your tagline again? I'm sorry. Could you share your tagline again, Julianne, so that
it is patterns emerging from attractor basins.
Thank you.
It's also referred to
I'm
as the basin of attraction, right? But
Yeah.
attractor basins is another way that it's referred to. If you go to Wikipedia and look up, uh, I think attractors, you will find a lot of useful information. But I just love this Lee Brasington's very concise definition for my purposes.
Well, if I can jump
So
in, I know exactly where I'd go to file it. And
Yay.
that,
okay.
I'm going to pick philosophy. Because if you look
Ooh.
at the difference between the various approaches in philosophy, whether you're talking about empiricism or realism, whether absolutes are real or just models of the mind, where you start with Plato, maybe where you start with the ideal and then it projects into our universe in things that aren't perfect circles, or whether you start with Aristotle's approach and you look at all of these circles and then you project this concept of an absolute circle. And then you've got the more modern ones where people say, no, 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 no. It's all in your head. It's all, and you can't really ever get out of your head. And then you've got the other group that says it's all in the physical world. You can't ever get out of the physical world. And they're all of these different camps
Mhm.
come together in this concept of an attractor basin. It's the reason that you're not getting to a commonality is that you are in a chaotic system. And this whole concept of a circle at all is the ability to deal with abstract versus real is this chaotic theory of the attractor basin. It's what pulls them all together and unifies them all. And
Yeah.
I have to go dig out a card, but the fact of the matter is I'd have to go in the next room and get out my bib card, which I have not yet turned into a main card, but I could do it if you want it's sitting, I know exactly where it's sitting on my coffee table next to my chair in the living room.
And your bib card is of,
Peter Kreeft's book on philosophy.
okay, cool.
Okay, I can jump in. And I was so glad that you shared your card early, because as soon as I read it, now anybody that's been with us for any amount of time knows that I'm not building a Zettelkasten, for the nonfiction traditional reasons that Lumen and Scott Shepherd did. I'm building mine for fiction. So everything that I take in some way informs my fictional worlds. So for me, as soon as I saw it, I immediately knew, and it's funny, when you're building your Zettelkasten for fiction, for me, everything occurs through the lens of a character. I knew immediately that my main male character, Marshall Branch, he would know this. These are things that he knows because he's a scientist and a botanist. So the first place I went in my index was I went to chaos theory because I did a fair amount of reading in that, not only in my former lives, but as a result of writing my book. So I found the butterfly effect and I found the Lorentz attractor, and those were kind of in the neighborhood of how I, meaning he, would think about it. And so I thought, well, maybe it would go around 4100 under pure math. But then I stopped myself and I thought, no, because if I want to go back and find this, I'm not going to look under math. I'm going to look under that character because that's how I think of it. So then I knew immediately it would go somewhere after about 3220, because that's where Phyllotaxis and botany is filed. And Phyllotaxis is the organization principle by which pistils on a flower or the spines on a pine cone, it's the way that those things are organized in different systems, natural systems like flowers and plants. So for me, this is simply another offshoot of something like, say, the Fibonacci sequence, which so many things follow. So if I were going to go looking for this, first I would go to Marshall Branch, knowing this is something he would know. And that would take me to, like I said, somewhere around 30 to 25 probably, because that's where that chunk of his knowledge lives in my notebook. So that's where it would go. And then it would be keyworded to chaos theory, because I would think to look there, attractions theory, because that's another way I would think to look for it. And then it would probably go somewhere under branch, under his references, like in his character development cards, maybe. Because this is something that he would have read during his education. So worst come to worst, I'm going to go to what he studied and find a keyword there.
Nice.
I love this idea that your characters are kind of archetypal in terms of their interests represent, a knowledge space in a way.
Yeah, that's a great observation. It helped me shape them in my mind so that I could write them, definitely.
So I kind of went the same place as Kathleen. There's actually a card that I haven't filed yet that would kind of be perfect to go with this, because it was in an introduction to the book Material Beings, which is about, what does it take for something to be a coherent thing? And the author, in his introduction, he was talking about the initial beliefs, or the starting beliefs, the things that he and other philosophers take as given because they can't see it any other way. And so he has this whole thing on, if you start in a different place, then you're going to end up in a different place. And so he was being very careful about saying what his starting presuppositions were and how they related to other people who have worked in this field. But I haven't filed that card yet, so it's not really up for grabs. The next best one, which is also pretty good, is a card where it's not very coherent, but I've just got a bunch of different representations that I have found listed of the dichotomy between Plato and Aristotle, the difference between Plato's idea of there's an ideal that's perfect that comes down and gets imperfectly, developed in the material world. And Aristotle was like, well, physical is all we can actually experience, so we're going to have to work with that, and then you can maybe build up from there. And but they never actually connect. That's the problem. Like you can start at the physical level and work your way up in abstractions, and you can start at the top ideal level and work your way down, but they don't actually connect. It's like the railroads being built east and west, and they actually did manage to connect them in the right spot, but these don't connect. Maybe in each individual can find a way to connect them for themselves, but in a general sense, they don't. And so I've got a bunch of pictures. This is from my newsletter talking about some of Lowell's questions, and this is also from another newsletter. This is the medieval medieval model of the universe, which is both geocentric and God-centric at the same time. So it's coming at things from two different directions at the same time, and it's kind of confusing. Sistine Chapel, you've got God touching Adam, except that they don't actually touch. There is a gap. And then in Kabbalah, there is the concept of the abyss, which is a disconnect between the top level, the top three levels of the tree of life, and then the ones below, and the abyss can't be crossed. So those are just a bunch of things that I'm like, these all seem to go together, and I've got them all under this card, which basically just lists them. So I would put your card, Julianne, somewhere related to those, perhaps as a sibling to the upper card but I'm not entirely sure.
Wow.
Super.
So who would like to go next?
Oh, I could go next. For a moment, I'm going to switch cameras so that you can see my card. Okay, so here's my card. And this card came out of just a morning meditation where I wrote a number of pages on my yellow legal pad. And for some crazy reason, I have never done anything like this since working with Quentin Payne's course on copywriting. He would have you pick an object off your desk and then write copy for that object. And I did many of those exercises when I was taking his course, but I haven't done anything like that. And it did not occur to me that I was going to do that, or even the faintest notion why I was doing that. It was just that it was a Sunday morning and I was almost done with my newsletter. And I love writing my newsletter so much that I didn't want to finish and say it was all done. So it was a way of not finishing so I could stretch it out, make it last the whole day. So I had this silly morning meditation where I just looked at a paper clip, a binder clip, and was just amazed at all of the complexity of this thing. You could ask its question about what does it do? How does it function? What is it shaped like? You know, a million questions that you could ask about it. I wrote 3 pages on things that you could wonder about a paperclip. And then it dawned on me that, well, this is the perfect card to make for the challenge for today. So I took my my 3 pages and I made a main card for it. And what I wanted to say was that the revelation that I had in creating this card was that you can look at the most banal object, and if you just study it and look at it from all of its angles, it generates a ton of questions. And then if you write down all of those questions, you could make an entire creativity deck from the questions that you could ask of a binder clip. And it just pops open creativity. So then my reflection on that was I wanted to have something that would bring the experience of playing with a binder clip and having my mind blown by it. So I just my tagline is mind, wake up, look, a binder clip. That will bring the whole experience back. And then I had to have a hashtag of creativity so I'd have a place to put it. Okay.
Yes.
So now the funny thing is that while I was doing that and coming up with my tagline, I had a revelation within a revelation. And that's what's written in red. And that I realized that there is a profound difference, and I'm going to come off onto my own self now. I realized that there was a profound difference between a title and a tagline. Something I never realized before. A title encapsulates the card. It takes the card and it reduces it to just the title. Encapsulation is an enormously valuable thing. I learned about it first in programming. You have to do some nasty, horrible thing like a big, ugly print routine, and you got to get it done and you hate it, but it's anything to do with the flow of what you're doing, but by golly, you got to have it. Well, you're going to do that and you're going to encapsulate it and you're going to write it very carefully because you're not going to want to go back there. So you're going to give it all the parameters it could possibly need that you'll never have to look at it again. Played it, and it's the print routine. And so a title just shrinks it down to a title so you can deal with it, and then you can build things off of it and around it because you never have to look at it unless you have to break it apart because some idiot thought of something you didn't have in your parameter list. That was the idea, was that it sealed it in a little capsule so that you did not have to think about that experience of going through writing that code. But a tagline has exactly the opposite purpose. A tagline is meant to put you right back into it, into the glories of writing all that code. Oh, I want a title for that. No, but into the amazing experience of taking my yellow legal pad and actually writing 3 crazy pages on a stupid binder clip.
Yeah.
And the fun that it was, just the sheer joyous fun of, well, take a look at this silly thing. What does this dip do in the middle? They all have it. Even the teeniest, tiniest binder clips have that little dip in the middle. Well,
Yeah.
when you think about it, you're putting a lot of pressure here on these wings. So it was hold all that paper. Well, if you put that pressure and it was flat, it would tend to bow up. And if it
Yep.
bowed up, it would release the pressure and you wouldn't get the effect of the clip.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's just such a wealth. And that's, to me, that's where creativity comes from. And that's what my card is about.
Okay, I have to go next because this is such a perfect example of why I teach the way that I teach and why I write the way that I write. Because for me, from the moment that I saw the picture, I didn't even read the card. I just saw the picture of the binder clips. And again, Wilma looks through the eyes of characters. Immediately, I heard a conversation in my head between Branch and Tara. He's a cowboy. She's a museum researcher. This is the kind of conversation the two of them would have. And he'd be like, what are you talking about? A binder clip? What is happening? And she's like, no, you don't understand. And she's all excited about it. That's a perfect example of capturing either an experience or a bit of dialogue, because immediately I saw them talking in my head where he's kind of needling her. Yeah, you're nuts. You've lost it, girlfriend. What is happening? And she's like, no, you don't understand. Now, as a researcher and an academic, she's trained for observation and she's trained to ask questions, which is exactly what Kathleen has just demonstrated beautifully. Those are the things that happen in your head when you're doing this exercise. And she was literally just drafting out marketing copy by hand on a legal pad. But all of these bubbles started popping. And for the writer, the key piece is capturing those bubbles in such a way that when you need them, you can harness them and use them either to drive conversation, point of view, characterization, wherever you're going to stick them. So for me, I immediately knew this is a Tara character card, and it's also going to get indexed to dialogue, conversation, or potentially dialogue, argument, funny, because I could see writing a scene where he's like, what the hell is with you and these binder clips? And she's like, no, you don't get it. And she's pleading her case to him that, this is an important observation to make. And he's like, yeah, whatever. So in my mind, it was really funny. And I could see how you could tease that out of a scene with the purpose of revealing their differences as characters, revealing something about how their brains work that could potentially be a thread that you pull later. If she's this passionate about this tiny observational thing, then when you need to call that back later, your readers are going to go, well, yeah, remember the binder clip incident. So this totally makes sense that she's geeking out over here. So, I mean, there's a million ways that you could deploy it, but I recognized it immediately as a very tangible way, just like Kathleen said, to ground that character in your head. So as soon as you see that tagline, you're right back in it, but also to reveal things between characters based on how you use that information. So that one was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
Well, I went straight to the card that would go with, which is one I've shared before, but I think it's a good one. So the tagline is, good chaos is creative and productive. You had some good chaos going, Kathleen. Good chaos is creative, expressive, and productive. It's when you get into the flow of creation and the ideas are flowing. Any order in this state is emergent, not imposed from outside. There is some structure, as the chaos is confined to a time, location, activity, but within the bounds of that sandbox, it is free to create anything. That is where I would put that binder clip card.
Yeah.
Well, I knew exactly where it should go, and it should go in a card that didn't exist. And it was another like, why is this not here yet? So I created the card, didn't have a chance to scan it. And the card is based on this book, whose title, People Say a Lot, Lateral Thinking, by Edward de Bono. People use that phrase as though they know what it means. If you read the book, you'll realize I didn't really know what it meant, because a lot of what people say, oh, you did some lateral thinking there. A lot of times it was just a little bit hyperextended logical thinking. But the card that I made, and I just want to, this is again one of these process of repair things. Lateral thinking, stimulate new pattern formation. That's my tagline. And here's what I wrote as a summary of the basics of lateral thinking. Lateral thinking provokes stimulation of new patterns by breaking down old ones. Its techniques deliberately juxtapose unlikely information. In a self-maximizing memory system, this activity permits new, more useful patterns to snap together. And so its techniques, you might ask, well, what are those? And now I have a reason to create my very first one of these, because there are 16 of them. And this is what you can think of as a promise ring.
Nice.
Haven't made it yet, but there are 16 of them, and each of them is like a slightly different neighborhood that you're looking at something from in order to juxtapose not just the same old stuff that you reach for, but different things. And I think it's a perfect home for Kathleen's card.
Oh, and I want you to do a video when you have that ring to share.
Sure. Great idea.
We'll do an interview or something. I want to see that ring. Of course, I don't know if I have room on my creativity ring for it, but maybe get in or start a
You
new
need
one.
a bigger ring. Just get a bigger ring. Oh, that was a terribly girly thing to say. Just get a bigger ring.
I wanted to say also, the binder clip thing reminded me of one of the most delightfully creative people that I have ever worked with. He was a really great computer programmer, but also very artistic. And he had in the office, every time you would go to his cubicle, there was some other new, amazingly interesting combination of binder clips that he was using in some either practical way or whimsical way. Really awesome. I'll just say the most, I haven't kept up with him, but one of the most creative things that this dude did, he created the figures that went on top of his wedding cake. Because he is artistic, and he being a diminutive Bulgarian, marrying a statuesque blonde, it was not going to work to have the typical assembly. So he had one that showed them just beautifully. And yeah, this is talk about creative.
Nice. The humble binder clip. Okay, I can go. So now that my book, Zettelkasten for Fiction Writers, is well past the halfway point of the typesetting, I find I have a lot more brain space. And I'm like, I gotta fill that up with something. So it's been really fun to get back to finishing the novel. So as I'm doing that, I've figured out what needs to happen in Acts 3 and 4 that allow the threads I need to pull through into the second book. So as I'm doing that, I'm starting to build out the structures for I think of them as a network of antagonists and revelations as those proceed through those parts of the story. So this card, I literally created this yesterday. And I thought, well, this is the most recent one. This will do. And I don't want to say things that are going to spoil it, but there is an animal that nobody has met yet. We haven't read that far ahead into the story. For people that haven't been with us for a while, Kathleen and I and Julianne are in a writer's group together over in Fusion Writing. And I have shared parts of the book. So this is past the midpoint, well into Act 3, and we're not there yet. So there's an animal. And this card is filed. It's filed under Marshall Branch because he procures this animal. It's filed under Charlotte, who is his first girlfriend from way back when he was way back, we'll just say, because he gives her this animal as a gift. It's filed under Tara because this animal is relevant to her in the present, which will be revealed in Act 3. And then it's filed under the animal's name, which I won't say, no spoilers. And then this card, which represents a different animal, is called the manticore. The manticore is a mythological beast, creature, that it's Persian, generally speaking, it's Persian in origin. Sometimes it's considered kin to the Sphinx in terms of its mythology and its symbolism. And generally speaking, it has the head of a human, the body of a lion, and the tail of a scorpion. And so the manticore is important at the end of the book because it provides an antagonist for this other animal whose name we shall not say for no spoilers. So because the manticore is an antagonist, it's filed under M for manticore. But speaking back to what Kathleen said about the difference between the title and a tagline, this was critical when I created the card. I didn't realize it at the time until she pointed it out 10 minutes ago. But the title simply says, a companion or familiar / antagonist, manticore. Okay, those are just the cut and dry detail facts. The tagline under that is a quote from myself to myself, which says, it gazed at her with soft eyes from the floor. So that tells me, that sets a mood about how this animal is being perceived and how it's projecting itself to this other character. And for me, that captures what I need in order to be able to write about this later. So that's where it goes. It goes under what it's called. It goes under the characters that it corresponds to. And then it will probably go on a directory list under just general antagonists as a reminder that this is a bad guy, not a good one. So that's where the manticore gets filed in my box.
Well, it's got an easy location in my Zettelkasten. And that is from the fact that he's a bad guy. So that's going to be a character trait in the wing position.
Yeah.
And it's presenting in the form of affability that is false, which is often an attribute of affability in the wing position. It is using the affability as bait. So it's going to
That is fantastic.
It's going to go into my affability experience collection.
Yeah.
A metaphor for any time someone uses affability as a bait.
That is great. I never in a million years would have assigned character traits to an animal. That is amazing. Like, now I got to rethink all my characters. Thanks, Kathleen. More homework.
But you assigned a villain status to an animal.
Yeah, true, true. No, this is great.
Well, I actually have a index entry for Scorpion. So I went that direction.
Cool.
And it's based off of a quote that is supposedly from the philosopher Heraclitus, however that's said. I haven't actually been able to track down whether this is actually in any of his writings, but the book that I was reading quoted it and said that he was the one who said it. So anyway, objectivization is what it's about. Objectivization means viewing a phenomenon as something separate from its context and as it exists at the moment of observation. A curve looks straight if you zoom in far enough. And Heraclitus called objectivization the scorpion sting because scorpion stings cause a paralysis of vision.
Ah.
So even if he never actually wrote that, it's such a great metaphor that, it's worth keeping, even if it's something that came from somewhere else.
Wow. That ties directly into Julianne's earlier quote from Anthony Metivier.
Mhm. Yes.
Well, I think that where I would put it is also in fiction. It's in there's a question that I just have hanging out in the Roanoke story in a story card, and its tagline is, "Who can defeat the troublemaker?"
I love it. Oh yeah, that's good.
And I'm viewing in the context of Roanoke whoever the troublemaker is, not necessarily a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the troublemaker is there to be defeated to be bested.
Yeah.
And being that it's Roanoke, probably bested for their own good.
Yeah. Very
Rescue
cool.
them from a dead-end path.
Yeah.
A certain character of mine comes to mind.
Hmm.
Well, okay, so I guess that's me now for the card. And I didn't post it ahead of time, sorry, but it's just a very simple one. It's a framework that I'm sort of developing for a future project, but I'm calling it SANE Systems. And SANE stands for simple, analog, necessary, and elegant. And those are the four attributes that a system needs to have in order to be sane in my system. So here is the card. You can see that I took several tries to figure out what the E was going to be. I went through expeditious, efficient, and I finally settled on elegant as the best thing for what I was trying to say. So I do have later cards expanding on each of those attributes, but that's the basis of the system.
Mm.
And
That
I
one's
have it
easy.
stored
That one
in my system. It is stored as a high level thing. It's directly under organization and time management.
Okay.
Mm.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah, mine's easy. Tara has an assistant in the museum named Chad, and Chad's goal in life is to absolutely organize everything and make sure that it's beautiful. That is a Chad card. It totally encapsulates how he views the world. Everything should be organized and beautiful until it's not.
This one, I would have to go shopping among multiple candidates, I think. One of them, the parent would be memory structures support mental processes. And I think also under system thinking. And then going into those neighborhoods might very well find an ideal parent for the particular flavor of. Well, I also have a whole set of mental models, which is where lateral thinking goes. Mental models are ways of looking at the world. So it's going to have a directory card for sure of all these other places it could have gone.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to need to copy that one because I'm looking at places too where it might go. I'm kind of homing in on one for starters. I'm not quite ready yet.
Take your time.
She's just pilfering Zeke. That guy takes more abuse.
He loves it.
That's right.
He has to ration the out cards.
Okay. Well, the
We
card
should have
I'm going,
Jeopardy.
and the sad thing is because I am working on a Zettelkasten book, I do have, it's in an area that has a lot of out cards in it. And the card that I was going for, which is not at home because of my book being written, it's that the tagline of that card is that an analog Zettelkasten performs the same simple function as the and then there's a similar one for the brain that I probably can find that brains perform the same simple function. And I think it's a strong, they're grouped together only in my index, but okay, I'm going to pull the other one. I apologize.
Oh, this is fantastic. This is process in real time for people that don't have a note box built out or who feel like, the syndrome of I should know this, I should know where this goes. No, you find your way. You literally find your way as you make connections. And sometimes it changes, sometimes it evolves, but this is what it looks like.
Okay. That and this comes from JHI. From a book by Intelligence and JHI. I'll have to pull that out to get the author. But it's from a paper by Vernon Mountcastle in 1978 called An Organizing Principle for Cerebral Function. It's a very old card. You can tell it's 3x5 and it's colored. And it suggests that all areas of the cortex perform the same simple functions, and differences are due to what they are connected to. Anyone? That even holds for motor control. The brains perform the same simple function, and it's the same simple function that Zettelkastens perform, which is just you've got your tagline has all of its keywords. It sends fetch signal out to all the keywords. The keywords collect themselves, all of the different cards, all across all of the different drawers, send back their information to the collector, and then the collector produces on a directory card what is relevant to one another, which is basically the same thing that your brain does. So that's
nice.
Awesome.
Apologize for the delay.
Oh, we got to see Kathleen in her natural habitat.
Yes.
He's gonna go back in the store.
Ooh, putting something away. Look at you.
Sure.
She's just showing off.
Yeah, I've got this stack here of all these cards that I pulled for this episode that I've got to put away now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I won't show the patchwork quilt that's on my desk.
It's so much fun playing with all of these toys.
Yes.
So now I've got the makings of a new bib card. Instead of just writing on these little things like I did for the quote, I should have added them directly to Anthony Metavier's quote card. I just started a bib card. At the very, very beginning, it got the title and the name. Room for the picture of the author. Thank you, Julianne, and all the information.
It's a great book. It's a so it came out a long time ago in the one that I had. It was in 1970 originally.
Yeah.
And
Hey, that's not very long.
And this phrase, he coined this phrase. And so at least the idea of lateral thinking is ubiquitous, but the very, very precise guidance for, well, how do you do that intentionally rather than just lucking into it is quite extensive. And he does a great job of connecting this to the available at the time brain science and all of that, neuroplasticity and so on.
Is it a good candidate for an audiobook?
Maybe, yes. Yes. I mean, there are going to be some, it's paragraphs. There are some diagrams in there. But it's not so extensive that an audiobook couldn't have been put together by somebody. Yeah.
I mean, there are books that you can listen to a chapter 5 times over, and for me, I won't absorb it. I have to.
I would say most of this is something that could be talked to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like maybe a candidate for both. One to listen to as the pre-read, the Adler's,
Yeah.
book, and then the audio, the written for the actual note-taking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow, that actually fills up our hour. We did have a backup activity, but we are out of time, so we'll save that for another time.
Indeed.
So if you would like to hear more of our crazy ideas, where should you go?
LiLLiPub. LiLLiPub.org is where we hang out when we're not here in YouTube land. So come on over to LiLLiPub.org and you can have more interactions with this crazy group of card-loving, analog-loving Zettelkasters.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.